Welcome back to Expertise Unleashed. I'm Brian.
And I'm Michelle.
And today, Michelle, we're going to be talking about finding the right coach for you.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
So actually that just means identifying who is the right coach, because depending on what it is that you actually might need, picking out the right coach there's a little bit of a science to it. Everybody doesn't necessarily need exactly the same thing. And actually finding a coach isn't necessarily cookie cutter either. As a matter of fact, it depends on actually what it is that you need. So for example, I often talk to people about, okay, what kind of coach is it, that you actually need? And any coach isn't necessarily the right coach specifically for you. So say, for example, all the time people are jumping into business and say, for example, you might be somebody that you have a difficulty with actually making sales. You're having a little bit of difficulty getting traction on selling your product or service. Well, going and finding a coach that is helping you get over mindset isn't necessarily the coach that you need for sales. So you might need to dig into sales. So, but then there's also people that have challenges with dealing with self-sabotage, like they have struggles with, articulating, or getting over those hurdles of dealing with pricing, for example. That is a mindset issue. So then you do need a actual mindset coach. So we're going to kind of dive into dealing with what is it that you actually need help with, and then actually getting the right coach to help you with your issue so that you can overcome that particular issue. And then you can identify the coach that you need to help you with that.
Right. So if I hear you correctly, you're saying that there is no one size fits all cookie cutter type of approach to it. You really need to be specific, about the type of coach you need.
Yeah, actually you really do. So there are those times, right? Like when you're thinking about this is okay. So let me tell you, when you are really kind of getting into it, because coaching is a big field now, and there are specific things, and people have different niches that they work in that are specific to their particular area that they're dealing with. So let me kind of drill it down a little bit. When we are talking to individuals, when they're dealing with their particular business, for example, so let's just take a business that deals in coaching specifically, because coaching in and of itself, you got different types of coaches. You've got people who deal with fitness and nutrition. You have people who coach people on marketing. You have people who do coaching on, say that they're dealing with weight loss. So you've got all these different types of coaches, and some of them might be dealing with, somebody might actually need help with, hey, how do I market my business? Because I'm not getting enough leads into my business to be able to maintain my cash flow. And so that person might need to do some lead acquisition is actually the issue. But they don't know how to, bring leads into their business. So they have a small funnel. They dealing with one person at a time, right? And so they don't know how do I bring leads into my business? Well, then they're dealing with, okay, how do I do that? Well, they go out and get a coach that may be working on, or they might go and get into a coach that is dealing with, hey, well, you know what? You really need to come in and you need to work on doing a big sales pitch and an offer. And so they're selling some type of a program to them. And that program, it tells them, hey, you need to come in and get my program, because my program is going to teach you everything, how to restructure your offer and how to restructure your whole program. And the person needs to know how to get leads. Well, you've gone out and bought a whole nother program to teach you how to do streamline and create a whole nother system. Well, you don't need all of that. You need leads into your business. So you have gone off and they're selling you on something that you don't need. So sometimes you need to really drill down and figure out what is it that you actually need. And then will that coach be able to get you the results that you are looking for? And so sometimes you have to learn how to identify for yourself, what is it that you actually need? So there's kind of a vetting process that you really need to go through so that you can really kind of land on, okay, what is it that I need? So figuring out for yourself first, what is it that you're having to struggle with? And then 2, okay, how can I vet out what is it that this particular coach offers so that I can figure out, is this the coach that's going to be the right fit for me?
So let's talk about us for a second.
Yeah.
So we can identify, and we've had experience, with this. Some good and some not so good. I can remember feeling very frustrated, during one program that we had. And like I said, it's no knock on anybody, but I just remember it just didn't work.
Yeah. You want to tell them about it? Go ahead. You don't have to give any
no.
Just talk about it.
No, we don't say names and things like that unless we give it a shout out. But I'm just saying, so, we implemented it. It didn't work. And it will make you frustrated. When you pay very good money or pay good money that you worked hard for, and you realize that this was not the right coach for me. So what that tells us is you really need to vet thoroughly when you're looking for a coach to make sure, that what they're doing is lining up, actually with what you need. Because if it's not what you need, you'll end up exactly where we are, frustrated. Then when Michelle and I are doing pillow talk, these son of a guns, this and that, and we done wasted our money and all, and we got sold a bill of goods. And so, you could say in a way it was actually on us, if I could just be transparent, because maybe we didn't look at it from a standpoint, okay, actually, what do I need right now, for what we want to do in on this end, and then on this end, okay, this is what they do, and does this really align with the goals that we have? And so I would say, every loss that you take there's a lesson in it. Every loss you take, there's a lesson in it. So, like you're saying, but now I'm getting off. Let me get back to it. So I wanted to get your take on it because, you and I, even though we're in this together, we don't always think the same. So, how did you feel at first when you were like, this is not working?
So there were a lot of things that I felt when using. So here's a couple things that we did, because I wanted to be able to break it down. And so I took a few notes.
Break it down.
So let's take Alex, for example, right? So we'll use some real life examples. So he was stuck at having $5,000 months. Remember, Alex was having $5,000 months, and he was trying to scale. He was a coach, and he was trying to scale his coaching business. And he thought he needed more marketing strategies, right?
Right.
And so he hired a sales coach. And so, here was the problem. He actually had a mindset block around charging higher prices. And so he really needed a coach that could help him with pricing and positioning. And that was one of the challenges, that we kind of had at first. We was really not sure what our issue was. He was buying one thing, but the problem was something else.
Yeah.
So then we had Sarah, and she has spent like $15,000 on a business coach, right? And remember, actually, we ran into this, who taught high ticket selling, right? But her audience wasn't ready for that. So she had a lot of followers. She had a lot of people who knew who she was, that she, interacted with, had big people, big numbers on IG, had big people on Facebook, had a lot of people that was a part of her audience. However, she wasn't at a place where she could charge $15,000 for high ticket. So she needed a coach who could help her build a warmer audience first. She had to get to a place where she could sell a premium offer to people. And so before you hire a coach, you got to kind of ask yourself, what's my biggest roadblock right now? And once you do that, then you ask the question, can the coach that I hire help me solve that problem? And that's what we didn't do the first time we hired a coach. And so we got frustrated in that pillow talk at night because we was like, wow, we done paid all this money, but it wasn't working. Yeah. And it wasn't what we were, it wasn't what our expectations. It didn't satisfy our expectations. We was like, when we done paid all this money and this isn't helping. And one of the things too is you kind of have to, ask questions, right? Like that's one of the big things, kind of ask the question. So that became part of the vetting process, because the other thing is when you start asking the question. So this is why we tell people now, you know what? Do the audit, right?
Absolutely.
Do a coaching audit. Will this coach I know what my problem is. Will this coach be able to help me solve this problem? And then, is this coach my right style of coach? Can I work with this coach? So we're Christian people, right? So I remember meeting a coach, and this coach did a lot of cussing. Now, I'm not saying I used to cuss, right? Like I don't do a whole lot of cussing. I don't want a coach that's gonna be cussing at me. I don't want a coach that's part of their vernacular. So in their marketing materials and the way that they, interact with people and how they flow and everything, that person doesn't fit me.
Hold on, Michelle. What did you just say? Did you say vernacular?
Yeah.
She said vernacular. She using big words.
Yeah, their language.
Okay, all right.
The way that they approach, the way that they talk, their lingo.
I know what you meant. I'm just.
Yeah, I get it. When you are looking at, part of the audit is the way that their approach, the way that they, come at you, the way that they, the way that they are is a part of what is part of that vetting process.
You know what, that's important because since you brought up the Bible, mm-hmm. The Bible says, let your speech be seasoned with salt, which means when you're talking to people, you got to be able to talk in a way that they'll be able to receive. You got to be able to communicate in a way that your message is being received and it comes across to the point where they can understand it and then apply it and do it. And so, but it also says, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened unto you. So it's very important, those things that you said about, one, asking questions. Because if you're asking a lot of questions to a coach and they get frustrated or they don't want to answer, or they feel it, you get the feeling that, they just asked me all these questions and they don't want to answer, they're probably not the coach for you and you need to move on. I don't care who it is and I don't care how big they are, because at some point in time, the communication gap is going to be so wide that it can't be closed and you're going to end up in frustration. But go go ahead.
That's real talk. That's real talk, because they ought to have an answer for you. So that's another part of it. They ought to be able to have a response to the questions that you're asking, and they should be able to you should feel good. Like there's going to be a nudge in your spirit. I feel like if the person who is for me, there's always somebody for you. But there's also that thing that's going to tell you, if they not for you, they not for you. There's somebody that's for you. There's somebody for everybody. And everybody is not going to be a fit for you. And it's okay. It's totally okay, because when you think about who you are spending, who you are investing in, and who is also investing time in you, it's going to be a natural fit. As a matter of fact, I remember one of the first rules that I learned in networking. When you go to a business event and you meeting people and you are greeting, I always believe that we're not going to just connect. We're going to actually click. And when you click with somebody, that's when you're going to know that, hey, this is a natural fit. We just going to work together. It's going to feel like we have known each other for a while. It's going to, we're going to talk, and it's going to be natural. You're going to get that aha in your sha-na-na. I always like when Willie Moe Jr. used to say that, but it's just going to be something that just clicks. And I feel like it's going to be like that for your business coach. You're going to know that you've met the right one. One of the other things that I think is super important when you are actually meeting and hooking up with the business coach is they're going to see you, and they're going to be able to help draw out of you the things that you need to do. Because sometimes there's going to be things that you don't know.
Blind spots.
Absolutely.
We all have them still. And you're right. You're absolutely right. It reminds me of just a real quick story. Mm-hmm. One of the best coaches that I had was a little league coach, and his name was Joe Brown. And Joe, even though we were a team, it felt like he knew each and every one of us individually as 7th and 8th graders, mm-hmm. and he could communicate with each and every one of us, on the level that we needed to get the best out of us. So when game time came on Saturday, he knew how to flip. I think it was 18 or 19 of us. He knew how to flip 18 to 19 switches to get us to go out there and perform at such a level where we just weren't going to be beat, because he was that type of communicator and a coach. And so not only did we see it, but the parents saw it. And they were comfortable. So you're right. The correct coach will be able to draw those things out of you, and will be able to see the blind spots that you don't see, to make sure that you're on the correct path to get to where you need to be. Because really, the good coaches, they get you from A to Z. Whatever that process is in the middle, that's the whole goal of really the coach, to get you from here to here.
Yeah. So you know what? There's also, I believe, that there's also those types of coaches, when we're thinking about business coaching, right? Like when you think about, we talk about unleashing your expertise, and there are definitely the types of coaching that you need to help you in your releasing your expertise, like to be able to go. And everybody's not, like, we know that we're not for everybody. We know that everybody is not. When we just talked about, there's a tribe, and you are going to be a fit for a specific type of person. But there's also the models that of coaching that are out there as well. So one type of model I like to introduce people to, so when you think about that one call close, right? Like when I think about the model of individuals, when we're talking about those folks and how they get to their business and they're building it, right? I think about those ones who, when they're thinking of being able to talk to people, right? Like, so if you are a coach, and this is for, we deal with a lot of coaches, so this podcast is probably for them. But if you are those folks who you need to talk to people, and being able to talk to people, and that's difficult for a lot of people. And so when we are thinking about, you're coaching people, you are a coach, and sometimes you have to be able to have conversations with people. And sometimes that's extremely difficult. Mm. People aren't, you have a great product, or a service that you provide to people, but you are not a salesperson. And one of the biggest hurdles that people have is how do I sell what it is? How do I share with people what it is that I do? And how do I get people comfortable? And you start going into these conversations about all the features and benefits of what it is that you do. And it's like, you don't went down the wrong path. You need help with having conversations with people. And you need to get skilled in that. And you need somebody to help you with that. And so I know, Brian, you were talking on one podcast about sales. And people, it's not sales, it's having conversations. Get coached on having conversations with people.
Yeah, it's a must if you're going to be in business. Mm-hmm. You will not be successful if you cannot have conversations, and in the midst of those conversations, drawing out people's pain points and their problems. Because the whole reason that you're getting into it is because you have a solution to someone's problem. It's like our tagline, become the solution to someone's problem. And that's what you want to be in the space. And so, having conversations is just a part of doing business. Now it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a product or a service, and you must be skilled at it. And you might even have to, hire someone, or a coach. I don't know if there's conversation coaches out there. I'm assuming there is, but if there's not, it at least ought to be a part of a program, a coaching program that you're looking for. Going back to the top of the show. There's somebody out there for something, but that's a question that you need to ask. Hey, I'm not so good. This makes me think of so much Bible stuff. It's like Moses was arguing with God. He was like, God, I can't talk, because they said he had a cleft or something, or a stuttering issue. And God's like, don't worry about it. I got you. I'll use this person to speak for you. Well, this person over here will help you conversate, he'll give you tips and techniques on how to do that. And, usually if somebody's really adept at sales, like I said, both of I have background in sales, we can, help you with that, or the right coach can help you with that.
Absolutely. All right. So now that making sure that you get the right mentor, the right business coach to be able to help you will be the lead in to your success. So we hope that this was a good show for you. If you liked it, please hit us with a few likes, give us some comments. And we also want you to share with us any episodes that you would like. We want to hear from you. So actually tell us about your business model, and if you need a coach, as well as if you have found a coach, let us know. We'd love to hear about it. So I'm going to kick it over to Brian to close us out to the next show.
As I always say, some people are meant to create a small business. Some people are meant to create a large business, and some people are meant to create empires. Which one are you?